elected to seek out the best. 2 words to describe the activity.
The Yoruba Unity Forum is conducted.
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa, we break the news. Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV Primetime News.
A 24-hour news station.
It's Core Digest Thursday, exclusive to Core TV News. Thank you for joining us again. On the show today we'll definitely continue in our focus on issues ahead of the 2015 general elections, especially now as we begin to look at the Jostile for power. Just on Tuesday, Mr. President formally made known to Nigerians his intention to run for re-election in 2015. Of course, on the other side, the opposition party, the APC, already ruled out about 5 names of interested aspirants, and it's getting quite interesting ahead of the 2015 general elections. I'm joined now in our live studios here in Lagos by Babatunde Olalerin Badamosi, Esquire, and he's a social commentator, an entrepreneur, and as well as being a tax and property consultant. But this morning is also a PDP aspirant in the Lagos state ahead of 2015 elections. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be on your program today.
Let me start with you had the newspapers and quite a number of stories as regards suicide bombing in different parts of the northeast Nigeria. It's even coming at a time after the federal government claimed to have had a ceasefire deal with these insurgents. But many have asked the question of how relevant this issue is at this very, very sensitive time in our political history as a nation. How would you describe how the parties, the political parties in this country are fared in handling this particular issue?
Well, look, it's a defense issue, isn't it? It's a security issue. It's not political. And before I go into the question, I'd like to quickly address something that seems to keep cropping up. You referred to me just now as a tax and property consultant. I am neither.
Okay.
I'm a real estate developer and a politician. And as you correctly said, I am aspiring to be the governor of Lagos State come 2015.
I picked that up somewhere on the internet, but you might have to tell your PR to work on that because it has flooded the internet now.
There's a lot of wrong information out there.
It's all right.
But be that as it may, security is not political. And it must never, people must never play politics with security. The minute you start playing politics with security, what then happens is you dehumanize the victims of terrorism, you cheapen the lives of armed forces, and you actually jeopardize the morale, you affect the morale of our security agencies, and the end result of that is never good. So I tend to advise my fellow politicians to stay out of security issues if they're not supporting the government. If you will not support the government, if you will not stand with the president and with the armed forces without qualification, then you have no business commenting on security.
What happens in a situation where there are insinuations from certain quarters that probably the leadership is not doing enough to address this issue?
And it is those insinuations precisely that I consider to be political in nature. And it is that politicization that I think is inimical to the interests, to the security interests of Nigeria as a nation.
But how do we draw the line between constructive criticisms and the other extreme? Because you can't tell me that these...
There's a very fine line. In fact, it's almost non-existent between constructive criticism and treason when it comes to a wartime situation, such as the one we're in now. If you overtly criticize the security efforts that are going on, or you discuss too much of it in public, too much sensitive information coming out into the public, could be regarded as supplying the enemy, in this case Boko Haram,
okay,
with sensitive information, and that would qualify as treason.
But let me quickly intimate you with...
I tend once again to remind my fellow politicians that lives are at stake here. Lives of brave men, brave women, officers, security agents, covert, undercover people who have been embedded with the terrorists.
Okay.
All around, both the Boko Haram angle and the Miyetti Allah angle, because there's quite a number of insurgencies going on at the same time.
Okay.
And we have reason to believe that it's the same group of people, just using different franchises, different labels, different packaging, as it were, to deliver their dastardly product.
Okay. Talking about constructive criticism, just on Tuesday, Mr. President formally made his re-election bid known to Nigerians, and he said, I'm actually quoting him now, let me affirm that under a Jonathan presidency, your views, no matter how freely expressed, will not send you to prison or into exile.
Well, he has justification to say that, because over the years we have had the most poisonous abuse ever heaped on a Nigerian president, heaped on this president, President Goodluck Jonathan, by the opposition, by elements of the opposition. Their allies, both at home and abroad, have continually heaped all sorts of opprobrium, undeserved mostly, on this president. And he has borne it stoically. He's not said a word in anger to anyone. And he's just carried on with the business of government. And he has done that, in my opinion, extremely successfully. Spectacularly even, considering the great strides we've made in terms of the various indices of our national life since President Goodluck Jonathan became our leader.
What I'm trying to drive home here is that Mr. President doesn't seem to be perturbed with whatever it is anyone says.
He has been extremely liberal. There's no doubt about that. I don't think anybody can accuse him of being heavy-handed. I don't think anybody can accuse him of being a tyrant. And I don't think anybody can accuse him of being intolerant of criticism.
Well, we've seen some clampdown, especially on the media recently, as regards the security. You must have that news when it broke about certain newspapers being impounded in northern Nigeria.
Well, no, that's not actually entirely true. What happened was, information filtered out that the newspaper distribution chain, the newspaper distribution network, was going to be used to move bombs around, because newspaper distribution vans would generally be above suspicion. And so what happened was the security agencies perhaps got a little overzealous in impounding certain vehicles and perhaps checking them. And I think such vehicles as were impounded were only impounded very briefly and were released in short order.
Okay.
So, that anybody would seek to make political capital out of that, I think it's just a tad mischievous.
The APC has described Mr. President's decision to declare to run a second term a day after the Potiskum blast as dancing on the grave of the school children
the APC,
and every other victims of Boko Haram. How do you react to that?
It's the APC, isn't it? That's what they do. The APC, and I'm treading carefully here. Okay, we have reason to believe, very good reason to believe, that the APC are somehow in cahoots with the terrorists, or at least they have some kind of franchise of terrorism going on in their camp. We have reason to believe that they are the political face of the terrorist groups that are terrorizing.
Do you have proofs?
The whole of the
Do you have
Northeast.
proofs?
I said reason to believe.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're not sure?
Prior to Mr. President's declaration, there was suspicion, very deep suspicion, that some act of terrorism would happen just before the declaration. And there had been speculation for weeks. There had been all sorts of security operations mounted to try and prevent that. But when it did, it happened in a most unexpected place. It was expected. We knew that something was going to happen, because there had been a pattern established that whenever Mr. President was about to make a major political announcement or a major political move, there will be an explosion. The political gesture, whatever it is, a rally, a speech to be read or whatever, would go on, and then the opposition would, start yelling that Mr. President is insensitive, and that's exactly what happened in this case as well. If you followed chatter on the social media a few days before Mr. President's declaration, you would see that people were already making the prediction that Boko Haram hasn't exploded a bomb yet. We're expecting a bomb now that Mr. President is about to make an announcement. And exactly what people predicted is what happened.
You agree with that?
And predictably enough, the APC, immediately went to town in their characteristic fashion and said that Mr. President was insensitive. Everything we expected them to say, they said. But then, you know what? The APC themselves have held political rallies in the aftermath of those bombings. If they were quite so sympathetic to the plight of the victims of bombings, perhaps they would also, take the lead in not participating in political events in the aftermath of, so closely immediately after such a bombing. The governor of Imo State, an APC member, a frontline APC member, has held a rally just a day after the bombing as well. In the Northeast, there have been rallies. Okay, so I really don't understand.
These are mere speculations that we cannot confirm on this platform. But
Excuse me, what's speculation?
The fact that APC might have a political franchise,
you will agree
like
that
you said.
You will agree that the coincidence is just a bit too convenient.
I'm getting there because you said this is not the first time it's happening.
It's not the first time. The first time,
recall the Yaya bomb blast as well.
The Yaya bomb blast happened.
What if?
Listen, the Yaya bomb blast happened.
Yeah.
Okay, on the day that the Chibok girls were abducted, if you remember. It was a double whammy, and it was coordinated. The Yaya bomb blast happened in Abuja, and while we were running around helter-skelter trying to find out what was happening there, while the security agencies were distracted with that particular incident, the Chibok abduction was happening at the same time. And the circumstances surrounding the Chibok abduction have not been fully explained yet.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
I think that...
Just a minute. We're going to get there.
Certain APC... Now, this goes back to my insinuation that the APC is somehow, somehow knows a bit more about the terrorists than they're letting on. Because these terrorist acts generally tend to happen in APC states.
If your insinuations are by any chance true, are you now saying categorically that the federal government administration lacks the capacity and the ability to ensure that these attacks do not take place?
Can I point out a few things?
If there was a precedence in the past, just a minute, if there was a precedence in the past and then you were anticipating it in the future, one would have expected that there will be much preparation on ground to ensure that it doesn't take place.
Armed robbers sometimes write to entire neighborhoods and warn them that they will be visiting. And the neighborhoods prepare, and they do the best they can. And then the armed robbers still come anyway and carry out their operations anyway. Does that make the residents of the area somehow incompetent? I don't think so. Terrorists have been warning governments around the world for ages about impending attacks. The IRA, during their time in Britain, constantly warned the Margaret Thatcher administration. They would actually telephone in warnings.
Okay.
Like 30 minutes before the actual bombing, they would call in and say, look, civilians need to be evacuated. We're going to explode a bomb here today. And just as they said, the bomb would go off and people would still die. Now, does that make the UK government somehow incompetent? I don't think so. I don't see people criticizing them for that. I didn't see people criticizing the United States government for 9/11. Even though there had been forewarning. I mean, congressional investigations were to later reveal that within the security infrastructure, the CIA, the NIS, there was foreknowledge of the fact that Al-Qaeda was planning something big in the United States. But as good, as respected as the United States security infrastructure is, even they could not prevent 9/11. So what I'm saying, in essence, is that when you have people that are determined to perpetrate evil, there's very little good people can do to stop them if they are determined.
The primary responsibility.
And so therefore, the responsibility of government when these things happen is to do the best they can to apprehend the culprits. And you will agree that the Nigerian government has acquitted itself quite well in that area, because quite a good number of valuable terrorists have been apprehended. Some of them have been killed in battle. Shekau is dead. I've seen the videos that are circulating now, and the gentleman that's being shown in those videos is clearly not Shekau. And where previously the videos were shot in very bright lighting conditions, the new video was shot in the dark, and the gentleman in the video, you can see that it's definitely not Shekau. He's chubbier, he's taller, and his beard is longer. His eyes are bigger. He's got bigger eyeballs than the original Shekau, well, than the initial replacement Shekau, because the original Shekau died. A new guy came in, a lookalike, came in and started pretending to be him. Okay, he died. And so they've now resurrected a brand new Shekau to take over that Shekau franchise.
You know, the urgent concern of the average Nigerian, especially a typical victim of a Boko Haram blast, and several thousands of Nigerians who have now become refugees in their own land, is not a question of APC or PDP. It's a question of, we spoke earlier also with some of them in camps in Adamawa who said, we just do not want food or shelter. We want to get back to our homes. This battle, a war of words, PDP saying, some have claimed that if Mr. President won elections, that Nigeria will be ungovernable. We've had the special advisor.
You agree that that's true?
That's I don't know.
That's a fact of history.
I am getting somewhere. Yes. We've also had the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, you know, lay claim and calling names. Would you say that all of these are reasons enough why the leadership has not been able to stand up to its responsibility of security and welfare to the citizenry?
When you say that the leadership has failed to stand up to its responsibility, could you please explain to me how? Under the circumstances of an invasion.
It's simply winning the war over insurgency in Nigeria.
Well, look, you have to understand that it's not only in Nigeria. Excuse me.
Yes,
it's not only in Nigeria that we have an insurgency going on. We have an insurgency going on in Pakistan. Vast swathes of the Swat Valley have been taken over by Taliban terrorists from Afghanistan. Almost half of Afghanistan is in the hands of terrorists. Okay, Iraq is more or less taken over by ISIS. Okay, who we all know to be terrorists. Kenya, northern Kenya, is under siege at the moment by Al-Shabaab. Somalia is divided into, is seriously fragmented because of terrorist activity. So all of these nations, would you say that their leadership is somehow negligent? The same way you are accusing the Nigerian government now, would you say that they are somehow negligent every time a bomb goes off or every time somebody gets killed? And these events are happening with alarming frequency, even more frequency than it's happening in Nigeria. Okay? Now, you don't see the people of those countries turning against their governments and accusing them of somehow not living up to their responsibility. I think that it's very, very unfair to keep hammering on that invalid point. It's invalid. If people are determined to bomb you to smithereens, unless you are happy to let go of your civil rights.
Let me get it clearly. Are you saying that there is nothing that the presidency can do about this?
Unless you are happy. The presidency is doing, and the security agents are doing.
No, what you said earlier now is that if certain people are determined to bomb you, then it's going to happen.
The presidency and the security agencies are doing everything that is humanly possible for them to do to prevent these acts from happening.
Okay.
But even as they take steps to deal with these issues, sometimes they have to take steps that are seriously extreme. Okay, like for instance now, Boko Haram have started using child soldiers. I don't know if you know about that. I don't know if you realize that Boko Haram are now using female bombers. The bomb that went off in Potiskum was, planted on a female suicide bomber. The one that went off in Niger State just yesterday was on a female bomber. on a female suicide bomber. So we really need to put things in perspective. These are people that do not understand that there are any rules of engagement at all. Okay? They do what exactly they like. And if you are happy to lose your civil rights, okay, if you are happy as a Nigerian to lose the right to, you know, move around freely, to not be stopped and searched every single minute of every single hour of every single day. And it's not that we have the resources to even do that.
Okay.
We don't. No nation has the resources to do that. Okay? No nation has the resources to search every citizen every day as they go about their normal business. If you could do that, then there wouldn't be normal business anymore. So we have to allow some modicum of national life, of you know, normal life, to go on in the country. And the only way we can do that is if the security agencies are given a free hand, as they've been given now, to go out there and, you know, basically take on the terrorists and destroy them.
You know, it's quite unfortunate.
It's sad also that the voices that we keep hearing, that keep accusing the Nigerian military, every time you see that the Nigerian military are making successes against the terrorists, you start hearing talk like, oh, the rights of Nigerians in Boko Haram are being abused. The Nigerian army is committing human rights abuses. They are engaging in war crimes. Oh, we're going to call the International Court of Justice to come and investigate what the Nigerian army is doing. This is when we're winning against Boko Haram. So we hear the partners of the Boko Haram agents in the media also start drumming up these accusations. And then, of course, a responsive government will say, okay, look, guys, pipe low a bit, don't go too hard. Let these people just keep quiet for a bit. Okay? Of course, when the military take their foot off the pedal, the terrorists come back again in full force. And that has been a repeated cycle. So, in my opinion, okay, anyone who speaks up in favor of Boko Haram is an enemy combatant.
But
that's the way I see it.
Are you saying categorically on this platform that the presidency, the leadership at all spheres in Nigeria has done its best in this particular situation?
I believe so,
of insecurity?
Yes. That is my belief.
It's all right. Oh, unfortunately, we have dragged this issue of insecurity into politics. I read somewhere that you were once resident in the UK. Is that true?
That's true.
Because there's a lot of wrong information, obviously, about you on the internet now.
I was resident in the UK for about 17 years.
And what I understand is that in this developed climes, opposing political parties might differ on several issues. But when it comes to the issue of national security, especially in the fight against terrorism, they come together. Why do you think this is quite impossible to achieve in Nigeria?
Well, look, it is to do with the quality of people in the opposition. In the UK, while the IRA threat was on, for a good while you had a conservative government, and everything they did regarding the fight against IRA terrorism was supported by the party that was not in power, the Labour Party. They actually always stood with the government when it came to security issues.
That's right.
Okay? When the 9/11 bombing happened, there was a Republican government in power. When they started taking steps like setting up the Homeland Security Agency, okay, there was bipartisan cooperation on the floor of Congress. That is to say, the Democrats, who were not in power, supported the Republicans who were in power to get all the legislation that needed to be passed. All right? So that says something, doesn't it, about the quality of the people in opposition in these countries. Now you come back to Nigeria, and there's a bombing. The first thing the opposition do is criticize the government for the bombing, as if it's the government that actually detonated the bomb.
Does the quality of the opposition we have has nothing to do with the quality of the incumbents?
It has everything to do with the quality of support that the security agents get. It has everything to do with the national morale. Everything in wartime, such as we are now.
Okay.
And whatever the opposition does that seems to be attacking the government is a victory for the terrorists, as far as I'm concerned. And that's the reason why you find in those climes that you mentioned, the opposition never ever go against the government in power at the time. Never on security issues. And the reason for that is because they intend to also occupy that seat at some point. If they are defeated, it's not just the ruling party that will be defeated, it's the entire country that will be defeated. And they will also lose out in that equation. Now, the guys in Nigeria don't seem to understand that. Their skulls seem too thick to get that information into their heads. That if Boko Haram defeats the government of President Goodluck Jonathan, it will not just be the President Goodluck Jonathan that will lose out. They will lose control of their people in the terrorist groups.
You know, the question now is, does the opposition has a point or not, given the circumstances and the situations that were found ourselves in recent time? You recall the lag of time that it took the incumbent presidency to acknowledge that an abduction actually took place in Chibok. That's just one part of it. That's just one part of it. I'm getting somewhere. Just a minute. Just a minute. And just yesterday, we also broke the news about another town that is being captured in Adamawa by the name Meha. This morning, the good news is that the local hunters in that particular local government have recaptured that town from Boko Haram insurgents. Now, this is the same state that has Mubi, which happens to be the hometown of the chief defense staff, presently
that's not his hometown, actually.
on their, of course, it's local government, or presently under the capture of Boko Haram, what they call Islamic Caliphate. Now, when you put all of these things together, does it not give you that insinuation that not much is being done from the top?
No, it doesn't.
How do you explain it then?
Well, look, at the end of the day, you have to understand that Boko Haram is a multifaceted, motivated extremist group. In some areas, some parts of the franchise are motivated by oil money, because apparently there is oil in the Lake Chad Basin that they want to take control of. Religion is also a major motivating factor, apparently, because that's what they keep going on about. Okay, and then there's the ethnic angle, where we find that apparently a large number of the terrorists are actually Kanuri by ethnicity. And we also find that apparently there are a lot of Chadians and Nigerians that are moving about. I mean, the videos that they've been, such as the one you're showing now, have shown that a large number of them are not actually Nigerians. Therefore, they can be regarded safely as an invading force. Now, we must be very careful, especially those of us in the media, to manage information that's coming out from the war zone carefully, to not generate panic in the general populace, because if you do that, it feeds back to the troops on the front lines. And if you affect their morale, then we'll have loss after loss, not because we don't have the equipment, not because we don't have the men, but because the men have lost the will to fight, because they keep getting attacked from the people that they're trying to defend.
Okay.
And so the media has a responsibility, the opposition has a responsibility to ensure that the morale of our men is not affected adversely by the way we report happenings, goings on the front line.
Does it not baffle you that what the Nigerian army could not do,
as far as
local
I'm concerned,
hunters were able to do
as far as I'm
Mayhem?
concerned, I will not accept any information that comes from the front line unless it comes through the right channels. Because what you don't understand is that there is also a war of information going on. There is a war of propaganda going on. Do we actually know that Maher was captured? Were you there? Did you see that it was captured? You don't know that for a fact. Okay? And if he was captured, if he was indeed captured, by whom? Do you know who did it?
Okay.
Okay? So unless the military confirm any information, I would urge the media to take every information that comes out of the war zone with a pinch of salt, unless it's from the military. You might not trust them, but the one thing that you can agree with is that when the military decide to act, as they did in Kunduga, they do very, very effectively. So please, let's maintain decorum as much as we can.
Okay.
Let's be careful not to, by our actions and by our reports and by our words. You know, the Bible says that the power of life and death lies in the tongue. And if we're not careful the way we manage what we say, then we might just be ending Nigeria ourselves.
Babatunde Gbadamosi is our guest on the show on Cold Digest today. We're going to take a short break now, but of course he believes, he doubts the credibility of information coming from Warzone, especially as regards the Mayha capture. Of course, we have a correspondent in the Demawa, and I'm sure that by the time we open the phone lines, we're also going to get calls from that part of the country of people who are eyewitnesses who can confirm all of this. We'll take a commercial break now, and we'll be back with more on Cold Digest Thursday. Don't go away.
Has it been a difficult task for you to purchase exquisite, classic, durable and sturdy furniture that will last the test of time? Here is good news for you. Purchase high-quality furniture for your household, offices, hotels and schools at Prince Interior Furnishing and Furniture Company Limited. Office address, Goshen Plaza, Showroom 28, Kubo Furniture Market, AYA, Nyanya Road, Abuja. Telephone 0803 119 1444 or 09291 7482. Email princeemeka240@yahoo.com. info@princeinterior.com. Website www.princeinterior.com. Purchase your furniture at Prince Interior Furnishing and Furniture Company Limited. Classic, strong, exquisite.
Glad to have you join us on another edition of The Political Arena, the most detailed and incisive political show.
If you are a sitting governor and the opposition is able to stomach structure against you, that means you are wicked to the people.
Give me 20 minutes to move or they will shoot me.
He has no chance for survival. If he likes himself, this is the best time to get out before he perishes.
The PDP as a ruling party has failed.
So anybody who thinks that government will fold his hands and allow miscreants to take over the streets of our own state and cause havoc is deceiving himself.
The good, bad, ugly, and beautiful sides of the Nigerian political system. Join me every Sunday at 9:15 p.m. on TV News.
Welcome back. Now, for sponsorship, advert placement, and other inquiries, you can reach TV News on any of the numbers that is scrolling on your screen. Of course, you know what to do if you have a service. I mean, a particular product or service that you need Nigeria to hear. This is just the right platform to air it. It's Cold Digest Thursday, and I'm still very much here with Babatunde Gbadamosi, PDP governorship aspirant in Lagos. Thank you very much for staying the course on the show. I understand there are contenders and pretenders. Which are you?
I am of the belief that everybody that's bought and submitted a nomination form for the PDP gubernatorial contest in Lagos State is a contender.
It's all right.
I don't think that anybody would spend that amount of money and not be serious about their aspiration.
It's all right.
As I am.
Well, and I am also sure that everyone that buys knows that only one person will win the primary election. So when you have a situation where you have over 10 and 20 people, you know, slugging it out for...
That's not true. We only have about 4.
Just 4 for now?
Yes.
Okay. We have quite a number of names flying around anyway. Well,
if you haven't bought a form, then obviously you're a pretender.
It's all right.
If you've bought and submitted a form, then you are a contender.
So indeed there are pretenders.
Well, if they haven't bought a form, they're not aspirants.
It's all right.
They're not in the game.
Let's get back to the Justice for Power ahead of the 2015 general elections. Mr. President made it clear on Tuesday that he is subscribing for the non-violent approach to politics, just like he made mention in 2011. And he's saying that no one should maim or kill or incite violence on his behalf.
Yes.
But you also will recall what transpired aftermath of the 2011 elections, uproar in northern Nigeria and all of that, how do we ensure a not only free and fair and credible, but a peaceful atmosphere?
Well, you have to talk to the opposition about that, because opposition figures have been going around beating the drums of war.
Are you putting that at the door of the opposition again?
Yes, I am, because the people that have been saying dogs and baboons will be soaked in blood if they lose elections, one of them is the presidential candidate, well, the putative presidential candidate of the APC. Okay, the other one said if Mr. President were to emerge as the presidential candidate of the PDP, those who make peaceful change impossible would make violent change inevitable. That was another APC man that said that. Okay, and the list goes on and on and on. They'll make the country ungovernable if Mr. President was to win the election. And they did. They did exactly that. And that's the incident you're referring to. The series of incidents, the hundreds of murders of young Nigerians, mainly of southern origin, in the north, by terrorists, by the people that no doubt are now operating in the war front as terrorists. So my admonition to the opposition is that if you keep stoking the embers of fire,
don't you also think
it
that
just might consume you
just a minute,
one day?
In the interest of national peace and security, would you count it right to place the reasons for violence and terrorism at the feet of the opposition party?
If the opposition continues to encourage terrorism with their words, yes. Yes, if they keep saying that killing Boko Haram murderers who go and disembowel pregnant women, behead babies, and eat the hearts of their enemies on the war front, that killing such people is human rights abuse, then yes. Yes. The Americans went after Osama bin Laden and killed him. Nobody called it human rights abuse. Nobody called it war crime. Okay? So if we go after enemies of Nigerians, people who we know to be killing Nigerians, and we kill them, and anybody turns around and calls that human rights abuse, then they must be a suspect.
But then does
they must harbor some sympathy.
Does the opposition party
killers
now doesn't have the right to speak against plans and policies that it feels are not
in the area of security,
geared towards the right direction?
Not in the area of national security, where lives and security of Nigerians is concerned. Okay, if it's about the life of one Nigerian, they really should not be seen to be politicizing it, and that's what they're doing. They're politicizing security. I think it's quite stupid, to be honest with you. Okay, if you ask me, they're quite silly. And if they were younger, I would have asked for them to be put away.
In this trade of words, you totally absolve the PDP and the presidency.
Well, look, the PDP is not involved in national security. The army is, the navy is, the air force is, the Nigerian security, the NSCDC, they're involved. The
but we've heard utterances from statesmen of the PDP and the presidency as well.
Well, these are people that are in the chain of command. The president is the commander-in-chief.
Just a minute, let me pick this call.
Of the armed forces of Nigeria.
We have Sulaiman.
He would be required to make some statements from time to time.
Let's take this call from Imo. Good morning, Sulaiman. Are you there? Sulaiman, are you there?
Yeah, how are you?
Terrific.
Yeah,
go ahead with the
you?
contribution, please.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Sulaiman. Carry on.
Okay. I also to make a little contribution to this matter. First, the states where this is happening is an APC state. There is no way APC knowingly or unknowingly will decimate an area where they control. And that the late Azazi said the power tussle in PDP is the power tussle in PDP is the result of the Boko Haram insurgency. And again, the man who made that statement, who made this country ungovernable, Alaji Keita, was a PDP member when he made that statement. So putting everything on the doorstep of the opposition is very wrong. If you look inward, it's very possible that those who are behind some of these things are PDP members who don't want Goodluck Jonathan to emerge as the candidate of PDP. So the Azazi, who was a highly intelligent military officer, could have gone wrong when he said part caused the insurgency problem in this country.
It's all right, Salaman. Thank you very much. I appreciate your objectivity in making your point. When you try calling and able to turn down the volume of your TV set, and once your call is acknowledged, you can go ahead with your contribution. Well, I'm sure you want to react to that.
Well, it is a given that the individuals that have been diametrically opposed to the emergence of President Goodluck Jonathan have been people that have always worked together in one way, shape or form. So whether they are flying the flag of convenience of the PDP at the time they make their inflammatory statements or not is neither here nor there. At the end of the day, the vast preponderance of these sorts of people are to be found today in the APC.
Let me just hold you for a moment there, because we value our callers as well. Good morning, Kingsley. Kingsley is calling from Enugu. Good morning.
Good morning, presenter.
Yeah, morning, brother.
Good morning, the gentleman in there.
Good morning, Kingsley. It's nice to hear your voice.
I want to put this to you, the presenter. I don't like the way you are showing patience at that man. At times, I hate it when people try to cover up what seems to be obvious truth. I want to say here and now, very clearly, to any sensible man of this country, anybody who thinks that we are going to rate our president by the activity and how able he has been to manage the activities of Boko Haram, that person is making a very big mistake. And as for the APC, they should rather go and think of something else. They should rather go and start asking us for forgiveness they have wasted in the name of struggling for power. They are simply hungry for power. They should think of other better ways. And each time I hear them talk, I always wish to ask them if they have solutions to the problem we are encountering, that if they are not behind these problems, why not come out openly and make the contributions? Then see the masses will now see that yes, when these people were not yet from power, change the contributions they made, and we will not be able to say yes, if they eventually get to power, they can do more. Instead, they are busy criticizing the president. I mean, causing mayhem. They should all go and start asking God for forgiveness, because even it doesn't matter how many souls they waste. I assure them we can never reach our president by all these Boko Haram activities, because we know that the man is doing his best. We know. I can attest to this on the truth. I mean, what have brought to this country.
It's all right. Kingsley, I believe you made your point there.
Start asking God for forgiveness. If they should, okay, why is it that the two major Haram attacks that happened recently happened only after the conference, after we have had program system, just like the past black investment?
It's all right. Thank you very much for your contribution. Well, that's the first time I'll hear a caller say he doesn't like the way I ask questions. And I appreciate that. But Baba, today, are you in any way not comfortable with my questions?
Of course I'm comfortable with the questions. You're doing your job.
It's all right.
And I understand that perfectly. But I can understand why the caller would be upset, because some of these things are self-evident. It's quite clear that the APC is so desperate to get power at the national level that they will say and do anything that will inch them, that will take them one more inch towards power at Aso Rock. And most Nigerians can see that.
There are also people who have the opinion that
can
the
recognize
PDP as well is so desperate to hold on to power. How do you react to that?
The truth is that it's not the PDP that has embarked on a campaign of murder and violence in Lagos State in the last few months.
How do you mean?
Just 2 days ago.
Just before you answer that.
Just 2 days ago, a
PDP
man was murdered by a special assistant to Governor Fashola.
Usman is calling from Abuja. Good morning. Usman, are you there?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Go ahead with the contribution, please.
Hello? Yeah, I'm there. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning, Usman.
My name is Mr. Usman.
Perhaps you want to speak up a bit, Usman, and lower the volume of your television.
Yeah, you know what is happening now. When you talk of, yeah, I'm away from the television even.
You need to lower the volume of your TV set.
Yeah, you see.
Usman, I'm afraid we lost that. Well, were you calling and able to turn down the volume of your TV set while you do so? And as soon as your call is acknowledged, just go ahead with the contribution. We'll love to hear from you. We always do. Well, let's take a step ahead from here to, as we begin to count down to the 2015 general elections. You know, the fear of some concerned Nigerian is how do we ensure a peaceful election in the face of all this ongoing insecurity in the name of terrorism in northern Nigeria. As a matter of fact, the Christian Association in Adamawa State recently called for a postponement in all the political arrangements ongoing to ensure that we bring and we can subside this effect of terrorism for a while. But do you see any silver lining in this dark clouds?
Well, I am of the opinion that any interruption to our national life amounts immediately to a victory for the terrorists. We must soldier on. We must carry on exactly as we planned in order to frustrate the plans of the terrorists who seek to use fear to disrupt our lives. And that's the reason why I felt it was important for Mr. President to go ahead with his declaration. And you will notice that at the declaration, the first thing he talked about was that bombing of the school in Potiskum.
Okay.
You will notice that. But of course, the critics and the naysayers will not remember that the first thing he addressed was that issue. That we stop any aspect of our lives because directly of terrorist activities will only give them more encouragement to do more. The more we ignore them, the more we carry on regardless of what is going on, the more frustrated they become and the more mistakes they begin to make.
So you're saying that elections should go on
the elections should go on as best as possible, even in the areas that are affected. We must do everything to make sure that we get the elections to go on where possible.
Mr. President was also quite affirmative when he said that perpetrators of the Potiskum blast would be brought to book.
The perpetrators of the Nyanya blast have been brought to book, haven't they? They've been arrested.
Let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Hurry.
Good morning.
Morning, how are you today?
Good morning.
How's Anambra?
Yes. Please, I want to make a comment.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Let me first of all speak from the guest you have over there. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Henry. How are you?
I'm very fine.
Good.
Please, quickly, I want to speak from a non-partisan and a non-religious point of view. You see, people like us, the average Nigeria, welcome and appreciate the fact that I appreciate the fact that there is need for enough criticism, that is constructive ones, for the government of today, so that they can shoot up. But the opposition has totally got straight. I must say this. With the way they do their own criticism is totally irresponsible. And I wonder if they have a good national party advisor that is advising them. And from events, it's not as if the opposition indeed have a hand in this incident. If not, why would Trump explain anytime the presidency wants to make a major appearance? And the next thing we see is the opposition coming to attack the presidency without necessarily condemning the incident and providing solutions. It is all we can from now to next day. The action for the average Nigeria and the grassroots, we know this. So let nobody try to deceive us. Let me sit and argue PDP, sympathizers, or any party man can argue or debate on the issue. But we know, and we are waiting for them in 2015. Thank you very much.
Good to hear from you, Henry from Anambra. Thank you very much for your contribution. We were talking about how, Mr. President assured that perpetrators will be brought to book, but how much trust do you think now exists between that level of leadership?
Well, let me remind you of something very quickly. After the Yaya blast, Mr. President assured us that the perpetrators will be found and brought to book. They were. Oguche was found in Sudan. After a lot of prevarication on the part of the Sudanese authorities, he was eventually transferred over to Nigeria and is in custody now.
Okay.
Now, over the years, the specific perpetrators of specific acts of terrorism have been picked up one by one by one by one, exactly as Mr. President has promised.
Let's take this call.
That will be done.
Just a minute. Good morning, Mohammed. Mohammed.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Morning, how's Kaduna this morning?
Kaduna is fine.
Please go ahead with the contribution, my brother.
I have an observation and a question to governorship aspirants.
Can you speak louder than this?
I will start with him. When he says the government present administration is doing its best and has done its best at the moment in fight against insurgency, is he indirectly telling Nigerians that insurgency is going to last forever because this is the best the government can do? And when you talk about human rights accusations, there are videos that shows when soldiers catch suspects, you don't just go shooting them on the main road or hitting them with sticks in presence of everybody. There are rules of engagement that are to be done. So when I'm not in support of APC in any form, but yes, I would agree with the past caller also that we go about making comments after attacks is wrong. But still, even in developed countries, you must have oppositions when things are not done. The primary status of a government is to provide security. And when it's not done, you could see there's a video that was being shown earlier of the chief of defense staff after his village was attacked, smiling and laughing. There should be some form of seriousness in his face that he's worried, but he's smiling, talking to news reporters with a face of expression that there's nothing that is bothering him at the moment. So I think, observation, please, I would like you to answer that question of Nigeria doing the best. You use the word in quotes. You said the best. That is the best. That means your best. So please, I would like you to explain. When you say that is the best, there's nothing that can be done apart from this. And comment about declarations. If something has happened to the family of the president on that very day, will he make a declaration? Would he? Every life should be as important as the president in this country. That's my observation. Thank you. Please answer my question as best, please.
Thank you for calling. Good to hear from you, Mohammed. Regards to people in Kaduna. Well, let's start with the issue of the best. He took you on what do you mean by this being the best? Are you saying that Millions of Nigerians are hopeless, and if indeed there is a sect who wants to bomb any area in Nigeria, this is just the best that the federal government can
Let
offer.
me go back to the motivations that I mentioned earlier for Boko Haram, and I said that religion is one of them. Now, when you are faced with a religious insurgency anywhere in the world, it's a poisoned chalice. It's something that governments everywhere find it really difficult to recover from. Iraq has not recovered. Syria has not recovered. In fact, Syria is divided into two. Iraq is almost completely taken over by ISIS. Pakistan is not enjoying any modicum of normal national life. India had to come in with a really heavy-handed approach to get some modicum of normalcy going in their national life again. The Chinese are doing what is being referred to by people like Mohammed as human rights abuses. They kill terrorists on sight. They shoot them to death. There is no such thing as due process. The terrorists do not try the women they kill. They do not question the children they behead. They do not interrogate the pregnant women they disembowel. Okay? They simply kill them in the most heinous possible fashion, in a fashion designed to instill fear and dread in the minds of the populace. And my position, again, is that terrorists, wherever they are found, should be shot on sight.
Does that not make us terrorists
No,
in
it
and of
doesn't
itself?
actually. No,
because
it doesn't.
We just displayed the
What
same
we're simply
character,
doing, what we're
the
simply
same
doing
things that
is
terrorists will
eliminating
do, we
what we're
also
simply
will
doing-
do in
what
the
we're
face of
simply
fighting
doing-
terrorism.
What we're simply doing is eliminating a threat to unarmed Nigerians. Okay? The people that these guys go out to kill in the dead of the night in their villages are most usually unarmed, innocent villagers, not combatants, not soldiers. So if soldiers come across them and they're armed, please, by all means, shoot to kill. Use lethal force, by all means, because we don't want to waste taxpayers' funds taking them through a convoluted legal process.
Well, you know the challenge, and let me just quickly come in
If
here.
they are the
challenge
enemy,
over the
they
time.
should be shot.
I don't
End
know
of
if you
story.
recall that the
It
Nigerian
saves
army,
us a lot of money. It
the
saves us a
Nigerian
lot of
army
time.
earlier
It
this
saves us
week.
and
Just a minute, just a minute.
Just
a minute.
The jailbreak attempts that we keep getting every now and again, okay, they are happening because these guys are highly trained militants,
The
highly
Nigerian
trained
army
soldiers.
earlier this week released
Yes.
about 125 Nigerians
Yes.
who were now later found out after they were arrested not to have anything,
Yes, they
any
were.
relationship with the Boko
Hold
Haram.
on,
No,
hold
no,
on.
I want to take you up on that. Just a minute.
I actually
What if
defined-
these 125 people
Hello?
have been killed at
I
sight?
actually defined.
Would that be referred to as justice?
I actually defined terrorists as combatants. People who go toe-to-toe with the military, exchange gunfire with them. Please
Okay.
kill them by all means. When you arrest people who are unarmed, the rules of engagement are completely different.
You've seen the pictures that we showed earlier. This is not a conventional war. This is what they call a guerrilla war. These people do not even wear uniforms. Many of them don't even have footwears. They dress like civilians. How do you now think that it will be possible to kill at sight without harming innocent Nigerians?
Hello. If you engage them in battle, then the aim of that battle should not be to arrest. It should not be to capture. It should be to kill. That's what I'm saying. Do not engage them with the aim to capture. Do not engage them with the aim to arrest. Engage them with lethal force. Lethal force. Kill.
For instance, you said earlier that Shekau has been killed. There are also other school of thought that probably if he had been captured, we would have had a clue as regards the authenticity.
Why would we? If Shekau, if there's an attempt to capture Shekau and Shekau has a general purpose machine gun mounted on his vehicle and is firing at soldiers, what then becomes the priority? Is it to capture him or to stop that general purpose machine gun from continuing to fire
You
and
recall
killing
that?
soldiers?
You definitely recall
I'm asking you that.
The federal government came out recently to confirm that probably they've been speaking to the wrong Boko Haram sect. don't you think all of these would have been clearer?
Which federal government said that?
Of course, the
Who said that exactly?
Governor of Akwa Ibom, Jostile actually came out on air. I have the video here. I can play it for you.
And said,
he actually came out on air and said that journalists misunderstood the concept of the ceasefire deal. And this was a ceasefire deal that was captured on tape where the Chief of Defense Staff, Alex Badi, made it clear to Nigerians that he has ordered his men. You asked me a question just a minute. That he has ordered his men to step down because there's an ongoing ceasefire deal between the federal government and the terrorist sect.
If you will allow me, I will explain to you how that ceasefire deal came about.
Just a minute, before you do that, let's take this call from Benin. Good morning, Ogbeifun. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm fine, and I want to say thank you for the program. Yeah, I have a question for the governorship aspirant in Lagos PDP. The question I want to ask, you see, sometimes we continue in our failure. When we have failed, we continue to put the blame. You see, sometimes, anytime I call through this program, I always make illustration that if a man happen to be a driver and there is a noise coming from the back, maybe within the car now, I ask a question, will the driver turn his back to watch and why that car is moving? I want that man, that aspirant to answer it. Because I don't see how measuring APC as the people that are responsible for this issue of Boko Haram. I know the caller called earlier on, and that caller that called, what the caller said was that he himself is not even happy to the way you, the presenter, attack or put a question before maybe you get there. But I will say you are doing your job, and I believe you are speaking with the heart of the people, and that is how it should be. Now, this governorship aspirant, don't you think also that is a way for the so-called ruling party to give the opposition bad names? Don't you think so also? Because if you have that heart to think that the NPC, they are just trying to destabilize, that even the ruling party, that even be the one causing this problem, just to see destabilize the NPC. Don't you think so? You don't need to stand on just one platform and begin to hammer. When we begin to see this, we look at you and say, this man is not truthful. Thank you, and God bless you.
Well, good to hear from you, Ogbeifun from Benin. We're going to take a short break now. It's getting quite interesting. And when I come back, Baba today, but I will say will still be here, and we'll do more justice to this discussion. Stick around, don't go away. Guys, what's up?